Well, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bhavna Bhatia, and I humbly and heartily welcome you all to Exchange for Media's fifth edition of Content Jam. Well, the content marketing gig. As the world moved towards digital and the businesses moved towards digital model, content marketing went up significantly. 82% of marketers report that they are actively using content marketing in 2021, which is up by 70% from last year. Marketers' primary goals for running marketing campaigns are brand awareness, increasing sales, and increasing engagement. Video is the most commonly used form of content marketing, overtaking blogs and infographics. Content marketing is one branch of marketing which hasn't only emerged stronger, but has also adapted, evolved, and is the link which has kept brands connected to consumers, especially when traditional marketing has taken a backseat. Well, our theme for this year is content marketing from creation to commerce. Well, content marketing isn't only about creating an engaging content marketing strategy anymore. It plays a bigger role than storytelling. It's about conversation and commerce. After all, we're pumped up and excited to kick off the virtual edition of the E4M Content Jam 2021. And before we get started, I'd encourage you all to tweet and post about the event using our hashtag E4M Content Jam. But before we go ahead, let's thank our co-powered by partner Colors. Let's take a look at our partner AV.
It's time to play the big picture. यहाँ 11 तस्वीरों से जुड़े सवाल पूछे जाएंगे और 12वीं तस्वीर होगी द बिग पिक्चर जो 5 करोड़ रुपए के लिए दिखाई जाएगी, पर एक गलत जवाब और प्राइज मनी हो जाएगी 0। तस्वीर से तकदीर तक का सफर, लेट्स प्ले।
बायजूस प्रेजेंट द बिग पिक्चर, एक अनोखा क्विज शो 16 अक्टूबर से शनिवार रविवार रात 8 बजे से सिर्फ कलर्स और वूट पर।
एक तरफ तस्वीर, एक तरफ तकदीर और बीच में आपका नाचीज कटपीस रणवीर।
बायजूस प्रेजेंट द बिग पिक्चर, एक अनोखा क्विज शो 16 अक्टूबर से शनिवार रविवार रात 8 बजे से सिर्फ कलर्स और वूट पर।
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, that was for our co-powered by partner Colors. To start this afternoon, I would now request Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, BW Business World and Exchange for Media Group, to take the main screen and welcome the audience. Over to you, Dr. Batra.
Good afternoon. Exchange for Media has been around for the last 21 years, being a pioneer and leader in this space of bringing new ideas to the fore, making sure new developments, new domains that are becoming bigger, we make sure we bring thought leaders, we bring content from those domains. Content marketing is one such domain which has become very big. We started our first content marketing initiative 8 years back when it was nascent. So the Indian Content Marketing Summit and Content Marketing Awards have come a long way for us. Today we celebrate content marketing leaders, the influencers, the complete ecosystem of marketeers, business owners who support this. And I must say, the post-pandemic content marketing has become even bigger as the digital and virtual economy takes even bigger wings. So we look forward to celebrating the leaders of the content marketing space today. Post-corona, 4 things matter. 4 C's: compassion, collaboration, contactless, and content. So welcome to the Exchange for Media Content Marketing Summit and Awards. I wish you a luck to get new ideas, to meet new leaders, to meet people who are doing great work in this space, who are building large businesses using content marketing. So all the best. Good afternoon. I'll see you soon at a physical event of Exchange for Media. God bless you. Happy Navratri. Jai Mata Di.
Now it is time for our first session with a very powerful keynote speaker. Well, he's the Executive Director, Foods and Refreshment for Hindustan Unilever and the Vice President, F&R for Unilever South. He joined the company as a management trainee in 1999, post his MBA from IIM Kolkata. Over the past 25 years, he's had a stellar experience spanning customer development and marketing across a range of categories. He's held leadership roles in CD across general trade and modern trade. He was previously the Executive Director, HUL, and the Vice President, South Asia for Customer Development. Through his leadership, he has successfully transformed HUL's customer development function, moving to a technology-backed strategy and data-driven approach to problem solving. Well, he completed the Senior Leadership, Executive Leadership Program for the Harvard Business School, where he represented the batch as a speaker at the Harvard Club dinner. He is a big buff of Bollywood movies, cricket, and is a big believer in technology-led process innovations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now let's put our hand together for none other than and welcome on the stage and screen our speaker, Mr. Sri Nandan Sundaram, the Executive Director, Foods and Refreshment, FNR Hindustan Unilever Limited, and Vice President, FNR Unilever South Asia. And he's going to be talking about content marketing from creation to commerce. Well, with this, we humbly welcome our speaker on the stage and screen. Thank you so much for joining us, Sri Nandan. With this, the stage and screen is all yours. How are you doing today?
So thank you, everyone, and thanks for that kind words of introduction. I really hope I'd be able to live up to it. What I'm really going to speak to all of you is about content to commerce, and really more than anything, share some of the principles and some of the approaches that we take at HUL, which I'm sure would be a lot of you will find useful. But before we deep dive onto content, I really thought it'd be useful to understand why this particular topic. And if we just draw a macro view, when we talk to a lot of our partners, you've got on the one hand where you see the YouTube logo saying people are speeding up to 2x or 3x and consuming content. And it becomes really difficult for us as advertisers then to be able to draw the message when people are really zooming at it fast. Then the other bit, which all of us I'm sure are aware, is increasingly we are becoming much more restless, and our attention span is a lot lower. So from the world of 30-second advertising, then the attention span that time used to be 12 seconds. Now the attention time span is 8. And if you listen to the words of the Facebook and the Google, it comes down to 3 and 6 seconds. And therefore, it becomes much more difficult for us to drive the message that a brand wants to give when the consumer is willing to give you this less an attention span. But here's where the inherent duality exists. On the one hand, when it comes to seeing advertising in isolation, we're getting 3, 6, 8 seconds to see. But on the other hand, each of us and our consumers are perfectly fine binge watching if the content is relevant. Therefore, if you look at average time spent consuming TV, spending on OTT platforms, that time is significantly higher. And many of us have spent hours binge watching something as recent as Squid Games, where you just don't want to swap the remote, you don't want to change the channel, but you want to spend hours watching it. And therefore, at the center here sits what people are consuming. And the truth is people are consuming content, and hence it's only logical and it makes sound business sense to try and see how the brand can leverage content and therefore present itself. And that's really where my pitch is. It's because this is where the party is. Either we go down the 3-second, which is important, we continue to do what we are very good at, which is 30-second, but equally go to the emerging party, which is about 30 minutes, 3 hours and 4 hours. Now, that's really the setup, and that's my way of looking at how content is so crucial for brands to be able to explain their own narrative and their own story. Now, the beauty of this is it requires a fundamental shift in thinking. What's the fundamental shift? We're used to a certain ecosystem of brand, a creative agency, and a media partner where you work in isolation or with 2-3 partners to create content like a 30-seconder. You then work with a media agency who deploys it in the best possible manner. That world changes a lot more when you start looking at how to partner with content. And therefore, what we did as a company is really look at a much more collaborative approach on content creation, because this is a space where we as manufacturers, as marketers, are not the experts. And one consistent approach, and this is the fourth year in a row that this is happening, is about Content Day, which is really bringing the experts into our company and therefore being able to understand their point of view and therefore educate us on what's the best way to weave in content. I'm just going to play a short video to give you a sense of what it is like during those days when we do the Content Day. While you see a lot of visuals which are about the physical Content Day, COVID hasn't helped creating the physical ambience. So the last 2 years have been virtual, but we've stuck to this discipline of making sure there's a Content Day where experts come, share with us, share with the brand team what brands can do in their space.
Every time there have been some interesting ideas that have come our way to get our brand message across. So far, I really like the YouTube creators stall. I think it's interesting to say how do you leverage these million plus creators to bring brand purpose message alive.
My God, this place is just alive with so many things. There are creators, there are publishers, there are platforms, all of these.
I really love the vibe. Usually you don't expect that brand events are going to have so much energy. There's music, there's all these fun little booths.
Great talent on stage, right from Gully Boys, Mati Bani, that's Nirali Karthik.
I love it. I wish I could come here every day and spend some time here.
Yes, you got a sense, and I think the larger message here is we can't create content ourselves. The broader ecosystem we've got to reach out to, which also means we've got to be crystal clear on what is the essence of what the brand wants to say, because that's what the content creator is going to take and try and figure out how it best weaves into content. Now, this can be a very, very wide area. So I thought for the benefit of the audience, we share the structure and the approach we use. So our path to breakthrough content is really around these pillars. One is on purpose, and I'll give you some examples with some results to tell you how this works for the best of the brands. The second is platforms, then pop culture, eventually partnerships and performance. I'll move to the first one, where we in Unilever truly believe that brands with purpose grow. Now, you could say that that's a pitch or a corporate pitch from a company, but I'm going to share an example of this being actually put to test at scale and the impact it has had on the brand.
India, a country where 90% of marriages are arranged. They say marriages are made in heaven, but not till they are approved by families. Dove believes that beauty should be a source of confidence, not anxiety. It launched Stop the Beauty Test campaign with real-life rejected brides to challenge this unfair tradition. Partnering the largest matrimony platform, Shaadi.com, we created history by making every bride profile nudge every bride seeker with inspiring real beauty messages. These rejected brides became the cover of leading fashion publishers for the first time. Purpose platforms like Humans of Bombay featured their inspiring stories. Popular influencers came forward and encouraged other women to share their real stories on social media. Stop the Beauty Test was a fully integrated, high-scale, high-impact and highly engaging campaign. Dove created history by challenging matrimony and media platforms and killing the beauty biases and stereotypes with its real beauty stance. It built confidence and stirred conversations with women posing a question: how much beauty is enough?
Yes, you saw an example of real scale and you saw the results at the end. So it delivers what is good for society and picking up a key theme, but at the same time does incredible benefit to the brand. Now, when you see the video, at what point it is a brand pitch and what point it is a great content is a never-ending debate, but that's what powerful brands can do. They can spark a movement and therefore generate a host of content which our consumers would love to see. The second bit is on creating platforms for engagement. This is another area where content is really king or queen, I might say. And just to share an example, again, from a very different category within the HUL fold, I'm going to share this example with you.
In the world of home care, Clinipedia began as an exclusive web destination, housing over 2,000 pieces of solution-led content that were prioritized as per growing search categories like laundry, floor, and kitchen cleaning, made in multiple formats to be easily demonstratable. Now, with the intent of furthering discovery, Clinipedia had to be present on the platforms our homemakers consumed most. On YouTube, where she's 5 times more likely to seek cleaning solutions, we created DIY videos for trending searches. As homemakers spent 1 out of 4 minutes on social, we customized our solutions as GIFs and infographics to make them instantly shareable. As no 2 news feeds looked the same, her social persona determined what solutions she saw. We partnered with Daily Hunt, a content aggregator, since 60% of our homemakers were more comfortable with vernacular consumption. Fueled by consumer insights, optimized basis platform, personalized by identifiable traits, Clinipedia today is a virtual content engine.
That's again a category approach and using a platform. Moving forward, having spent about 12 years in sales, I had to make this pitch. It's from my own stable, and one of the things that we're doing on a brand called Boost.
Sports is entertaining because it has always had a way to measure success, speed, strength, distance, and a lot more. Apart from the one that keeps every legend going, stamina. Boost is a chocolate health drink brand for kids that stands for stamina being the secret behind champion cricketers. So we joined hands with a team of data scientists and analysts from Sports Interactive to develop a first-of-its-kind currency that measured stamina. Introducing the Boost Stamina Meter. The Boost Stamina Meter made its first appearance at the Indian Premier League, the Super Bowl of India. Stamina scores of 184 players were displayed in real time. Leading commentators and experts reiterated the impact of stamina on a game. With 500 plus contextual creatives, Boost Stamina Meter built a one-stop destination for all things stamina. The campaign garnered 35 million video views, a whopping 4 billion impressions, aided awareness increased by 1,000 basis points, market share increased by 900 basis points. It generated 4 times the value of a typical IPL campaign. Not just that, Boost Stamina Meter created an answer to a very important question in the world of sports. What's your stamina score?
Yeah. So,
Sports.
That's therefore the one you saw on popular culture with cricket. The other bit which we're learning and building a lot of content around is partnerships. And this is really commerce with cord cutters, because increasingly there's about 25 million audience who doesn't see most of television, and they're onto completely different genre. And here's an example of a hygiene brand called Lifebuoy delivering its message.
Traditionally, Indians eat food with their hands. However, only 35.8% Indian households wash hands before eating. Lifebuoy, India's #1 hygiene brand, has always relied on traditional media to educate consumers on the importance of hand hygiene. National lockdown led to a rise in online food ordering. We saw this as an apt opportunity and struck an alliance with India's #1 food delivery app, Swiggy. We built brand awareness by nudging the consumer with a 10-second contextual brand video while he tracked his food order. We transformed 2.1 lakh Swiggy delivery agents into ambassadors of change, reminding consumers to wash hands. We served the consumer with an additional reminder through push notifications post-delivery. The consumer asked for their intent for purchasing Lifebuoy liquid hand wash. We created a listing for Lifebuoy products on Swiggy's B2B app Staples Plus. The video reached 4 million consumers. The brand received a phenomenal positive feedback. Lifebuoy liquid hand wash packs reached 1.8 million households. Lifebuoy stood out by breaking away from the usual go-to media avenues and made hungry Indians ask one another, "Khane se pehle haath dhoya kya?" Tradition.
And of course, then more conventional is D2C. This is easier. Most of you are aware of this. We have our own DTC with lakmeindia.com, which is really personalization at scale to drive imagery, engagement, and of course, commerce. Therefore, in this case, it's much more simple. There's an algorithm which determines what the remarketing creative is. You deploy the creative, enrich data profile with the attributes, and then you bucket individuals into cohorts so that what she is most keen to see, that's what is served through the entire portfolio that we have as Lakme. So here are a few examples that you saw covering the different forms in which we can weave our message into content. And just to bring that together in one bit, this is at the heart of what it is, which is the path to breakthrough content can come for brands through their purpose. It can come through a platform, so it need not just be a brand. It can be agnostic to brand within a category. It can definitely come with pop culture. It can come through partnership, and you can do it through performance marketing. And I think the common thing around all of this is requirement for us as marketers to be really clear and pithy about what is it that our brand stands for, and then be much more open, inclusive, and inviting for various content creators to dabble with our brand. They'll get close to what you intend to do as a brand if you're very, very clear on what your brand stands for, and it is evocative enough for content creators to create content. In many ways, it requires a lot more humility to say that I will control what the central theme of my brand is, and then open it up for consumers and content creators to make sure they're able to engage with it, and therefore put it out in front of consumers to consume and spend time with. And remember, spend time with is the biggest problem that each of us face. And I would bring back your attention to 3 seconds, 6 seconds, 30 seconds, and then 30 minutes or more. And since our consumers are spending time on certain kind of content and binge watching, the other side of the argument is you really don't have choice. You've got to be able to weave in content. Otherwise, the time people are spending to understand what our brands have to say is diminishing by the day, if not by the minute. In summary, my personal take on it is content is critical to drive new age commerce. New age commerce is not just about lower funnel marketing. It is as important to build brand attributes, build the brand positioning through upper funnel and lower funnel. And therefore, for this to be done effectively, with a large population of our consumers either watching content on the phone at the rural side of the country or watching content without TV in the extreme top. In both cases, weaving in content is the best bet for brands to pitch their story and for consumers to spend more time engaging with the brands. That's what I had to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Srinandan Sundaram, for joining us and giving us this experiential sharing you had. It was great to have you today to kickstart. Thank you once again. Which is a panel discussion on role of content in driving business direct to consumer. Let me please invite our panelists. First up, Sagar Bokhe, Head Customer and Shopper Marketing, Food and Beverages, Tata Consumer Products. We've got Amin Lakhani, the Chief Operating Officer, Mindshare South Asia. Jayan Mehta, the Senior General Manager, Planning and Marketing, GCMMF, Amun, who's joining us. We've got Isha Nagar, the Managing Director, NEPA India. We've got GB Sridhar, the Regional Director, India, Middle East and South Asia, Singapore Tourism Board. And the session chair of this panel discussion is going to be Gurpreet Singh, co-founder and COO, One Digital Entertainment. Well, with this, I'd like to humbly invite and welcome all our panelists and our session chair for joining us. What an incredible start we've had to our content jam today. And your smile says it all. Thank you for bringing in the energy and exuberance. And welcome once again. Gurpreet, the stage and screen is all yours to take it forth.
Thank you, Bhavna. Thank you so much. I think the stage is for all the senior leaders who are present with me on the panel. I just feel like a kid right now, being the session chair, but I'll just try to play my small role of navigating the discussion amongst some of these marketing tycoons who are sitting out there. I mean, some of the brands, I mean, people like Jain from Tata, right? These are the brands that they have been doing marketing even before I was born, possibly, right? So I'm just saying I'm here to take learnings along with the audience from everyone out there. I would just like, though most of them need no introductions, but I would just like to set it up for the context for the entire audience. If each one of us can just give quick introductions about the overall marketing landscape that we are doing in each one of our brands and what is our specific role. Jen, do you want to go ahead with your experience of, I think, over 3 decades in working with Amul?
Okay, thank you so much. It's a pleasure meeting all of you, and thank you, Bhavna and Michelle, for inviting me for this nice, interesting conversation. See, I've been with Amul for last 30 years. It's my first job, so I'm still learning. And we've been a part of this business for now 75 years. And Amul was among the first, so to say, official advertisers in India way back in 1950s. And ever since then, one of the things which has stuck into our DNA is not to think like an advertiser, but to think like a content creator. And I go back to the year 1965 when the first Amul topical came up. So over the last 55, 56 years, you're seeing a lot of content being created without talking specifically about the products or the brands that Amul had. And you know the journey of Amul, the success, the turnover that we have is more than 50,000 crores. But the focus still remains on creating content as much as so that you are able to retain the customers, attract their attention continuously. And you're seeing 7, 8 generations, I mean, so many generations also passing by and changing tastes and consumer habits. So this is what is in the DNA of the brand, and the creative agencies that work with us or the channel or the partners that we have continuously focus on this. The social media changed the dynamics a bit, and the Amul topical obviously adapted to the social media, be it Twitter or Facebook or Insta, whatever. But the last year of pandemic gave us a very, very interesting chance of using this technology and an opportunity to create content using recipes. Now, this is not a new thing for us because Amul has been the charter sponsor of MasterChef for the last 10 years. And you know how it goes into making a TV show in which you give specific instances, kitni baar brand name bolna, itni baar ye product dikhana, itni baar ye karna, wo karna. The investments are huge, 20, 25, 30 crore per season. And you get a show and you get measure the ratings. But here we used Facebook to connect the consumers who were at home because of lockdown in the first phase of pandemic, and I'm talking about April 2020, and the chefs who were sitting at home. We gave them, the chefs, the access to our Facebook page and told them to prepare recipes which people at home can prepare easily. We did not say specifically use Amul products. We did not say use Amul name in any way. Only small request was not to use competitor products in your face kind of thing. But we created magic. Now, this show has been running for last more than 530 days, non-stop since 17th of April 2020. More than 3,300 chefs have participated. You created 3,000 shows, and more importantly, created content of about 135,000 minutes. Now, this is translated into number of days is equal to 100 days out of 500 days. So if you start watching it, this is the content you get. And the audience was not local, it was international. We reached out to more than 50 countries, and we continue to get viewership, and all this done at an investment of 0 rupees. So if the brand has that capability and the current social media has that power to reach out, you are able to do impossible things in difficult times also. And now we are trying to use and leverage it as much as possible in many other ways. So this is just thought the introductory remarks, and we'll continue to discuss after.
Sure. Mr. Jain, sorry, I mean, just to take, while it was my follow-up question later on, but I can possibly ask you right now itself, because for brands that you are heading, Amul, and I'll have this lead-up question to Mr. Sagar also for Tata, right? A lot of your products are sold not just in the metros, but in very remote locations, right? Where reaching out to those consumers might have been difficult, right? Everyone knows about Amul brands, Tata brands on all those remote locations. Do you think, how do you prioritize those markets? Do you think those markets also understand the integrated content, right? Not just on the face marketing, but integrated brand integrations within the content pieces? What have you been learning, and anyone who wants to target those locations can take learnings from you?
It's a good question because we connect with the rural audience in two ways. They are our milk producers also, and they are also our consumers. So the brand has to reach out in both the dimensions. It's not just the idea of just selling a product to them. It is also saying that how much trust they need to have on us as they are the owners of the cooperative. So that's an additional responsibility. But I'll focus right on the selling part. Distribution is a game which most of the panelists here and a lot of people in the audience have been playing. So that is conventional. You try to reach out to them by appointing distributors in every single taluka, every single 5,000, 10,000 population town, and so on. That's the easy part. Then comes the difficult part of communication, which means you look at mass media or the conventional TV, print, digital, whatever. Digital actually came in as a boon now. And we realized that all this while we've been talking about largely in English and Hindi. And with the new technology, it's not possible to do so in that seamless manner. So over the last 1.5 years, we've created Amul brand pages in 11 different languages. So we're creating content in Marathi as much as in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kerala, Malayalam, Odia, Bengali, even Arabic, and trying to share our messages, our stories. And believe me, the recipes also are being done in those languages with the chefs of cuisine of that particular region. So that is, and now the audience is also digitally savvy. You are able to reach out to them, talk to them in their languages, listen to them also in their languages. And that makes a very interesting part. So, and now further we are expanding to 3-4 more other languages. We are looking at state languages, but not state languages like a Sindhi or a Bhojpuri and so on. And trying to reach out to the audiences in a much more simpler way, so that's easy for them to understand the brand. Then focus on availability of products using technology. We have a Locate Amul app in which anywhere you are sitting in India within 5 kilometers, you can get the names of Amul retailers, Amul distributors, and the shops having list of the Amul products which are currently available. And I would invite you to try that out also right now. So this is how technology is being used both ways in expanding distribution and also communicating to the audience in the right sense.
Oh, super. I think localization of content marketing is the key, right? I mean, which everyone right now has been focusing on. Mr. Sagar, from your point of view, Tata also runs a wide range of products, right? You are not focused about a particular, just one of those products. And as the head of consumer products marketing, you just want to share your experience. How do you prioritize and how do you see the entire content marketing ecosystem?
I'll first talk about the content marketing or to the rural audience, and adding to the learning that Mr. Jain shared. I would say two more learnings to really add. I think first is that there has to be genuine, it has to be customer first. Most of the stuff that we create is advertiser first or the brand first. Now, two examples I'll give. One, during the lockdown, we realized that people were sitting at home. Obviously, in the month of April and May, there was IPL to happen. IPL really obviously got shelled off. So we had created with Jio. I mean, as you know, obviously Jio has a very wide reach, across rural platform. We created something called IQL, India Quizzing League, and we really obviously the natural connect with Tata Salt as a brand. Tata Salt is iodized salt, right? And iodine is supposed to help the mental development, right? And we created content across languages, across around 15 languages, 15 different Indian languages, and we created different clubs of different cities. And quizzing, I think, general knowledge and, creating content on that hub, crores of views got created. I think using the insight that people are sitting at home, they are missing out something, a brand with a connect of a proposition, really wanting to engage them effectively. And at a fraction of cost, I think it would have cost us some around 15-20 lakhs in the entire investment of both media and the content creation. But I would say the return that you would have got in multiple of crores. So the first thing is that really finding that insight, what is very relevant. Second thing, I think what content can essentially do is really able to create an emotional connect. So I will give an example. The rural audiences, I think fairs and all these things are a big draw. So 3-4 years back in Puri, if you know, there's a Rath Yatra. So 2 kilometers straight, there are around 1 million people which are stranded. So what we had essentially created, we had created a popsicle, which was basically powered by Tata Salt, because dehydration is a major issue, right? And it was latched on big time. And we created that content, put that digitally and put on various platforms that almost went viral. So the idea is that if you are creating a connect, finding a good seamless, the consumer first product connect, I think content can really do magic for you. Other area where I believe content can really play an important role is in commerce. Obviously, when I say commerce, uh, I don't think it is as effective as a direct funnel performance marketing, but we have to have a role. So we started something called a Startup Nutri Corner, where we had dual objective of creating sticky audience who believes in our thinking. So Tata Sampann as a brand which we created, wherein the philosophy of the brand was to say that Indian homemade food as the power to really provide health and nutrition like anything else that people really wanted to say, and a good quality. So essentially making every single Indian household nourish the household through native Indian food, and a lot of wisdom around it, like say why spices are good, why the protein from legumes or pulses is lean, right? And many such practices, right? We created content around it, and we saw that in couple of months, around 4 to 5 lakh organic views, people visiting thrice, 3 to 4 times, and obviously the brand was seamlessly viewed because our products were essentially based on that philosophy. While we did not get huge width in terms of number of customer, but there are many people who would buy their entire range from us. So I believe content, depending upon what the objective, has really power to transform the way brand are perceived, and objectives across brand love, brand memorability, as well as sales. I think the content really, if well used well, can really serve all these objectives.
Super. Thank you so much, Sagar. I mean, at Mindshare, you represent some of the biggest brands out here, and beyond media buying, Mindshare also has a very strong, robust content building capabilities within in-house only, not just from a creative point of view, but from a end-to-end execution production point of view, right? What have your learnings been in last few years, right? And today, like I said, you are not just an agency who's just buying media for brands, but also overall developing fully content, their brands integrated into content solutions.
Yeah, thank you so much for that kind introduction. So first and foremost, I think let me just put this very straight, that the win in our entire journey is about understanding consumers, right? I think that is at the heart of everything that we do. So if you're seeing the consumer and watching him migrate from one platform to the other, it is very important to see where the aggregation of consumers are going, right? So that's at the heart, at the center, as a pillar of. The second part is when you look at digital and data. I mean, they have actually democratized, e-commerce, or rather commerce, in many ways. So when you put both of these things together, wherever there are consumers and there is technology available or there's data access available, you can actually enable commerce and start, doing things. Like, for example, it just needs to be an Instagram post, or you can do a radio call, or you can do a voice call, and you can have a click of a button, and you can start doing transaction in place. So the critical thing is that what content should we serve to a consumer, and at what stage of the journey is, right? Very important to understand the consumer journey, and therefore intrigue him, allow him to engage with that consumer. Engage with the consumer will depend on at what period of time are you throwing that content to him. For example, somebody who's not feeling well, who has a headache, and somebody not feeling well, in his mind, he's searching for an answer to that. And suddenly, a simple ad of an headache pops up, he'll have 100% attention. But somebody is in a party mode, you throw in 25 ads of, headache. I mean, it will go down as a blind spot. So I think, and if you apply this principle, it becomes very clear as to, what kind of content will you create for a consumer at what point in time. So I think that is our day job. The day job is that how can we really, find where the consumer is in his journey, and therefore how do we intervene that journey and place our content in a manner that is very greatly receivable. Right? If he's already on a marketplace platform searching for a product, should we waste time on storytelling, or should we waste time or invest time in telling him that, boss, you have 5 products and this is the best product available to you? So I think that's the piece over there. But if he's not, and he's enjoying IPL or he's enjoying a movie and all of that, that's a great time to go and build the upper funnel narrative for him, right? And mind you, the biggest proud moment is clients, our own clients, who will talk about their work. One client has already spoken about the body of work that we do. Another client will talk about the body of work that that is done. And what is intriguing me and really exciting me is that CPG clients are most evolved. We know that they're most evolved because they understand marketing. They have a 365-day approach. Weeks on air is a conversation, always on is a conversation, and that's an established norm. But how can a cement client create content and engage with consumers? Is something that we will learn. I mean, that's really exciting to me. That how can you go in a very non involved category? How can you create consumer engagement and involvement? Is something that is clearly engaging. Impressing me now. So more on this. I mean, I can keep talking.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'll love to touch base on like you mentioned, because I always feel there are brands with whom the content flow, the storytelling goes very organically. And like you said, there are brand categories where it's a little tough ask to how do you integrate that category within the entire storytelling experience. And that's where I think agencies like you come into play. Mr. Sridhar, at Singapore tourism, right? What Singapore has been able to do. I mean, I'm just saying, I look at Singapore not just as a country, but also as a fascinating brand, right? What they have built in last 50 years to right now the hub of tourism, not for the leisure tourism, but from an entire business ecosystem point of view also. Do you want to just share some insights and how do you operate? How do you see content marketing as a key priority area from your marketing point of view?
Thank you. So for Singapore tourism, we have been in India for more than 2.5 decades now. And the biggest challenge for us has always been, how do we communicate to our varied audiences? And you're right, Singapore is a familiar favorite for many Indians, whether it's leisure travel, cruise, meetings and incentives, family travel, and regional cities as well. So the last 2.5 decades, we have come from a position whereby Singapore was introduced to the Indian audiences. Just to give you a quick some numbers, in 2019, we had invited 1.41 million visitors from India to Singapore, making India the third largest source market for Singapore after China and Indonesia. India is our #1 cruise source market. In 2019, I'm talking about pre-COVID. Singapore also counts the Indian meetings and incentive segment as a very important segment for us. So over the last decade, for example, India has moved up from about the 5th or the 6th largest source market to being the 3rd largest. So our biggest challenge in India has always been, how do we communicate to the Indian audiences and engage them? I mean, my job description is very simple, right? I invite Indian audiences to Singapore. But how we do it is a bit complicated. We are a destination. So we do not own products. Although we are Singapore Tourism Board, I don't own any of the experiences I promote in the country. So I work with the likes of the zoo, the bird park, the Gardens by the Bay, Marina Bay Sands, and Resorts World Sentosa. But all of these experiences, we need to sort of accumulate them and present to the Indian audiences in a meaningful manner. So 3 C's and 1 A. I mean, I was just thinking, how do we present content marketing? So first C is about making sure our content is creative. We are operating in an environment whereby the Indian audiences or any audiences are having a lot of content coming at them, and trying to say things above the noise and clutter is going to be very, very difficult. So we have always looked for projects which are able to present our content in a creative manner. Second C is clarity. We want to have clarity in our communications, what Singapore stands for, what are the experiences you can enjoy in Singapore when you come, what are some of the things that you need to look out for, especially in this COVID-19 situation, although travel borders are not opened yet. What are some of the things that are happening in Singapore? And we need to be able to present that clearly to our audiences, because clarity is something that increasingly audiences are looking out for, because they are bombarded with so much information and content and knowledge They are looking for some clear communication messages from brands like the Singapore Tourism Board. The third C, and I think the others have also touched on it, is consumer centricity. Gone are the days where the messages were push. We sell Singapore. We say we are a great country. Come and visit us. The audiences are no longer looking at that. They are very discerning. They are saying, I'm having a conversation with my friend about a particular passion. Where's the relevance Singapore has for that? So coincidentally, our brand is Passion Made Possible. So I need to be able to communicate to the audiences in passions and conversations they're familiar with. And finally, it's an A, authenticity. I think for the longest of time, Singapore has always been very clear that we cannot overpromise or oversell Singapore. We present content as it is. And lately, we have started realizing audiences are very discerning. So they are comparing notes, they are talking to their own friends, and that's important that we communicate very in a clear and authentic manner. So some of the projects we have done ranges from Bollywood movies to TV series. Recently, we had the privilege of working with the Wood Kids to do Chota Bheem, presenting 7 episodes of Chota Bheem to the Indian audiences, and that was presented as a gift of smiles to the Indian audiences to engage in a child friendly manner. And these are some of the projects we have done. So our approach to content marketing is simply, how do we bring Singapore even closer to the hearts and minds of the Indian audiences? Maybe I'll pause here and
Sure.
Back to you.
Sure. Thank you so much. Isha, you, I think, do a very interesting job out here, right? Where brands are spending monies on the content marketing. You act as a resource center for them in guiding them about trends by studying the data, by studying consumer metrics, especially in these times of the millennial audience where everyone is trying to catch up with all the lingo. And also not just that, from an ROI point of view, how did their brands, the entire budgets perform in terms of the sales or awareness or reach point of view? Do you want to just take the audience through what NIPA exactly does?
Thanks, Gurpreet, for the introduction. Also, sorry, I think the panel caught me on a very, very bad throat day, but I'll try to say as much. So a bit about NEPA and how content is so dear to us. What am I doing on Content Jam? NEPA is a consumer science firm, as you already mentioned, Gurpreet. It's been 10 years for us in India. And why content has been very dear to us is because in the last 3 to 4 years, we have been consulting a varied, brands in terms of their content strategies, and also playing a part in terms of really deciphering the omni-channel path to purchase as well. And thus, content marketing, one important piece that I have seen in the work that we have been doing for a lot of brands, both for traditional legacy categories, as you mentioned, CPG, and for emerging categories, is that it is first becoming imperative. It's becoming a rock solid part of the consumer journey. We are seeing, because of the advantages that it brings in, the cost optimization that it brings in. And I think on the panel, we already talked about the creator economy booming. It's becoming so easy to create content, first of all, that it's such a lever to the marketer. You don't have to, the dependency is gone. I would love to bring to the table also the fact that the amount of content creators which are becoming D2C marketers leave no room to not have a role reversal, right? We've seen that with a personalized merch coming out from the content creators as well. The second point that is very interesting in the work that NEPA has seen, and I have closely seen at NEPA, is with the emerging categories. I mean, CPG, I think Amin mentioned that, CPG, the categories are so nuanced that there is so much of literature that you would know that this is the first bet that they're going to make when, things are moving and shifting towards content, coming in with all that knowledge. But for categories like, say, an in-home services brand, for a sleeping mattress, which is just not related, we're seeing that content is it's democratizing them, because it's giving them a chance to, what I say is that it's giving them a chance to give them a larger objective, a larger cause, which is not related to the bottom line at all. So it's telling stories. It's also giving like a huge cause. I mean, take sustainability, take corporate responsibility, etc. I think that is going beautifully. So the third thing that I also, apart from the emerging categories piece, is that I think video marketing is something that we have seen is just doing wonders. The short form is becoming so short. And one trend that we are seeing is that it's just latching on trends. I mean, we see it in Reels, we see it in Instagram for business. That categories like sneakers, and because our work play involves like categories which is just not connected. But video marketing and the way it's really bringing in the heart of D2C to the to the core is seemingly very interesting at this point in time. But I'll maybe weigh in along, but that's the starter remarks.
Thank you so much, Isha. Isha, you mentioned about trends, right? Latching onto the trends. Mr. Jain, Amul has been, one of the front drivers where you have come up with fascinating campaigns whenever there are new trends or topical newsworthy things out there. How do you see? I'm just saying, the trends, riding on the trends and doing campaigns, while we discuss brand awareness campaigns and while there's a debate on what is the conversion around that, right? How is it driving sales, right? Unlike, when you're doing digital spends on Google display networks where you can generate a lead and see an Excel sheet, you spend this much of money and these are the direct sales out there. But from your point of view, riding, it's actually a two-part question, riding on the trends, acting on that, and as well as building a balance between brand awareness campaigns when you're creating content and looking at it from a direct sales point of view.
Okay, I think very good question, but equally difficult also. I'll also answer in two parts. As I mentioned, the content helps you remain top of the mind. And that's what the Amul topical does. It's one of the examples I'm sharing right now. The Amul girl does not talk about any Amul product per se. Okay. So that is where we are delinking the mascot and the communication which creates the content, which is the central continuation character of the campaign for last 55 years with the products that we market. So both are delinked. So customer, when he or she looks at an Amul topical, they know Amul's not going to say, "Aaj Amul ka butter khao, kal Amul ka bread khao, kal Amul parso cookies khao." The product marketing and brand marketing is different. Now, believe me, unlike most of the companies sitting here or in the audience, we spend less than 1% of our turnover on advertising. So it's a very, very difficult call when you have so little a budget and still you are saying that the most valued topical property of the organization is not talking about any of the products. Okay, so this is necessary to remain making consumers remain interested in your product and your brand name and remain top of the mind. And that's how you become topical, create content on topicality and ride on the wave. Then comes the change in technology and how the brand adapts to it. This is where the conversations come in very handy. I'll just take 1 minute to talk about Amul's entry into the dark chocolate category in a very, very competitive chocolate market. At some point of time, we were very good in chocolates. Then suddenly in the 1990s and up to 2010-15, we were languishing in the bottom of the tree. Okay, then we said, how do we get back into the chocolate category? So we didn't want to take on the leading brands head on in their space of milk. We said, get on to the dark space. And we created the entire brand of Amul dark chocolate, the entire portfolio of dark at 40, 55%, 75%, 90%, 99%, Peru, Venezuela, Tanzania, all that entire range, over 35, 40 products, sheer on word of mouth. You listening to conversations of the customers, creating the products around that, and these customers actually ensure that the distribution of the product also happens at the place where he or she is residing. And all this with, again, 0 rupees investment in advertising and brand building. Imagine Cadbury's sales turnover, advertising to sales ratios are in double digits. We were taking on the giant with 0 rupees spending advertising. Simple, because when you create a small content and the social media gives you conversation, your product is very good, your distribution is not very good. And I'm talking about 2015 to 18 on that era. And still you can see Amul now available in more than 3 lakh shops. Our single bar costs 100 rupees minimum and still the distribution is wide and customers keep asking for more and more variants. So listening to customers and adapting and creating brands also is an experience we've had and we've been replicating across various other products also. But it's not very difficult to do so. You have to have the basics right. And then the confidence in your customers that they are the guys or ladies who are going to buy your product wherever they are because their friends are recommending it and not a typical brand advertising communication of 20, 40, 60 seconds is doing so. So this is the power of the medium which we need to leverage.
Thank you so much. I think that's what we all discussed, that the power of creating good content where the audience who's consuming it, they become your marketing team and they start sharing it further and without you having to always spend crazy media spends. Mr. Sagar, how critical it is for Tata to ride on the ever-changing trends, right? And especially when you're talking about content being generated on the digital platforms, right? Where you are reaching out to a large set of young audiences as well, right? Riding, just adapting to that, how critical is this from a Tata's point of view?
Yeah, I think for every single brand, content is an important part of the strategy. And one of the things that we also realize is for the young audience, obviously the platform matters, right? What platforms you are, and also the messaging technology. So one of the things that we had done, and see one part of, so we had essentially one pillar of our brand building is generating brand love, especially for a brand like Tata Salt, which obviously is consumed by around 75 crore Indians, one of the highest loyalty, one of the most trusted brands. So we had you and so one example that I would like to give on Gandhi Jayanti, we had created one AR-enabled technological intervention wherein on the MG Road in Mumbai, there was an installation. If you walk past that installation, you will get a message from Gandhi. Actually, there would be a picture of Gandhi. It would almost pop out and say, "Oh, you are walking on my road, but are you walking on my path?" And it actually startled many people. And then they said that, Gandhi obviously spoke about cleanliness, like cleanliness is next to godliness, and showed the pictures of various public places in the city where, where the amount of filth and amount of dirt is so much. What are you doing? So you walk on my road every day, but will you, on the 2nd October, will you also take pains to walk on my path? While it engaged a lot of people, because obviously that road, obviously the fort area is one of the most crowded in the country. It created a lot of imagination, and it went viral. So I presume use of technology in a very innovative way, engaging way, and choice of platform really makes an important criterion for brands to really engage. Another part of a very interesting question which you asked, I think to Jayan, I would actually want to contribute if I may, which you spoke about this performance marketing and brand awareness marketing, and a lot of people ask this question. I would say that performance marketing is actually not marketing; it is sales. And there is a fundamental difference between marketing and sales. I think the job of marketing is to make selling redundant, right? And the basic message, basic fundamental promise that a marketer has to make is that how do you create a narrative which has lowest common denominator among multiple people, grabs their attention and makes them to act, right? While for niche categories, while it may still make a lot of sense, I would say for mass categories and brand which really want to make, they have to create narrative which are very compelling. Also, financially, it makes no sense. Let me give you an example. I mean, most of the CPG categories, and I think a lot of my experiences are basis consumer product, because that's where I have spent most of my time. The ticket size is very low. So if I were to really acquire a customer, the minimum cost of acquisition is 150 to 200 rupees, right? If I do the same good quality content, if I do good content, the cost of view is 20 paisa. Okay. Yeah. And if I do that at a frequency of 3 times, 4 times, that is 70 to 80 paisa. If my brand is strong, if my messaging is strong, the consideration to awareness ratio is 70%. From consideration to purchase ratio is around 60%. You work out the maths, right? It will work to some, 2 rupees, 3 rupees of acquiring a customer, allowing me to spread myself quite wide, right? And I would presume that and that I would advise to most of the marketers. I think don't fall for trend. Let's understand the fundamentals and what will really make the brand. I think the idea of brand is everlasting, and really investing behind creating brands that customer want to prefer. And one classical example I have given to multiple people, that for a same funnel, different brands will have different conversion ratio, and the differentiating factor is not the medium choice, but the choice for the brands, right? So
Sure.
sorry you didn't ask me that question.
No,
but
no, no, no. I mean,
this
question for everyone on the panel. Mr. Amin, I mean, again, same two questions for you as well, because also as a part, and you and your teams, I think, go through this every day with every brand, right? Awareness campaigns, what's the sales being driven, and also predicting trends, right? And a lot of times you must be getting calls from brands, while when they would have seen certain campaigns, then we should have wrote on that, right? And at times you guys would have predicted something, but brands might not have agreed. I mean, I think it's just because I work very closely with your team, so I just love to hear some examples and stories from your side.
Okay, so first and foremost, I completely agree with what Father mentioned. And you know, marketers should really stay away from this entire trend philosophy, and so that's something that I completely agree with. The second thing, very importantly, he alluded towards, and he actually implied as well, was that you should have a view of what's the customer lifetime value, that you should look at, and then therefore that is where your business model will operate. Now, it's just that I'm just building on this, building on this line of thinking that many brands who are coming into the market recently and newer and emerging categories, like Deepa mentioned earlier, they really don't have the luxury that Sagar and his brands have of 75% loyalty. Now, when you don't have all of those things, how in that kind of an environment do you really build a brand, in a manner where you can balance your short-term as well as your long-term objectives? I think more and more companies who are launching, in the emerging market categories are actually trying to find that balance. That how do I win on short-term and how do I, kind of also invest behind the long-term? And in that balancing act, given the way the consumer is spread across multiple touch points and the proliferation of media and all of that, I think it's very difficult. It's becoming a great challenge for them to really find that thin balance. One of the recent studies that I was going through actually said that the new and emerging, the millennials or the consumers, the loyalty percentage, 60% plus people don't really have, are not showcasing any form of consistent loyalty. In this kind of an environment where consumers are increasingly going to be flirtatious, how do you really make compelling narratives, to attract yourself towards your brand? So that's one challenge, and we should all come together and solve for it. So that's one part. Right. The second thing that I want to say is that in the same set of studies, it shows that digital as a medium is really helping influence these light, loyal consumers in a certain way. So digital has a great influence. So my second point is that yes, this entire digital medium, and especially for these young flirtatious consumers, is really acting as a influential conduit. So those two are important elements in our consideration. Right. The third important consideration, if you move from there, is that again I'll go back to the previous question. The conversation that we had is that at which stage is the consumer in his journey, and therefore once I realize that this is a person who's interested in coming in for home interiors, or this is a person who's looking at buying a car, or these are the people, and then there are many data points which are available, and then we can actually see intent. And we can actually see, intent building up, through various digital and through the conversations like Mr. Jain mentioned earlier as well. So if you look at those data and insight stories, you will come to know that there is a bucket of consumer who's already either in the category or already in the marketplace. I think people who are in the category or in the marketplace showcasing intent, they need a very different approach to activating that funnel versus people who are going to be in, you want to invite them into category consideration or and then thereon. So I think these are the ways in which you can actually look at and segregate different sets of consumers within the entire universe, and then derive your strategy. So
super. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Sridhar, I mean, it's often believed, right, that the tourism marketing is a very impulsive marketing where people are taking a call basis when they're seeing something, a content piece, when they're planning their vacation. From your point of view, like Mr. Amin mentioned, the influencer marketing, right? Is it a big part of your marketing budgets, or still long form content planning throughout the year is something which you guys focus on?
So I think a few things have changed, right? Point number one, we are living in a very different environment where a lot of digital natives, people are consuming content, very personalized content has come up. So for us, it has been very important that we look at active and passive marketing. So active marketing has been previously very sales oriented, right? When you are in the consideration of a travel, up pops up some STB advertisement together with maybe our travel agent partners, and you decide to book the package and come to Singapore. But increasingly, we have realized that a lot more passive stage marketing is needed, where even before they are even considering a holiday, we need to be able to engage the consumers and let them know about what Singapore is and what the destination is all about. So you are right. We have started looking at all forms of content creation. So whether it is content that we create on our own with partners, like say whether it's Book My Show, National Geographic, or Tripoto, which are all platforms which has got different ways of storytelling, or Chota Bheem or a Bollywood movie. So that's content creation with another like-minded brand or platform. Two, of course, there's content that we create with our travel agent partners, because these are the guys who are actually selling and converting these purchase decisions, right, and bringing them to Singapore. But increasingly, we are looking at influencer marketing. Influencer marketing has gone big time. I think Aisha was talking about it also just now, that a lot of us are starting to see influencers have become marketers of their own. And we are looking at influencer marketing. So we are looking at them as passionistas, because we sell Passion Made Possible as a brand, Singapore's brand. And we look at their passion points and how do we use their voices in authentic voices. Either they have consumed those experiences in Singapore, therefore they can then talk about them, or B, it is a passion point and they are then connecting with a Singaporean similar passion, and then they tell their story. So influencers has become very important. The other look at that we are looking at is the vernacular lens. I think the likes of Tata and Amul in the room will know about connecting with an audience in their language has now become so important in India. And we are looking at, so prior to the COVID-19, we had 15 cities from which an Indian traveler can come to Singapore. And we have realized that whether we need to communicate in Tamil, of course, they can still get these communications done in English, and most of the time our communications get through. But we have started realizing communicating in native language, whether it's Gujarati, whether it's Tamil, Malayalam, Hindi, all of that is becoming very important. So we are looking at micro influencers now. We are looking at vernacular content. So the content creation and distribution has now have to be looked in totality, and seeing how the various trends are coming out of India. We are now seeing how we can customize the content for audiences across India.
Sure. Thank you. And I think as a tourism, as a category also, fits very, very interestingly, organically into creating content, right? I mean, it's not that you just have to reinvent the wheel in terms of, traveling is somebody which everyone loves and they relate to. And when you activate influencers, I think that's why, in my experience, when we have worked with tourism boards, a lot of them have seen very high ROI in terms of uptake of the tickets being booked for those countries when we have activated influencers for some of these campaigns. Isha, when most of the brands and agencies, when they're activating marketing campaigns, right, there are different metrics to measure the ROI, right? There are discussions about what's the overall reach, now there's a discussion about leave reach, what is the engagement, right? And then a discussion about, I don't care about the engagement also, how many leads, how many clicks did I get, right? I mean, these are different metrics being, and I don't know if anybody knows what's the right metric to measure the content marketing. From your research, from your point of view, when you deal with brands, what do you prioritize, and how do you talk to brands and help them understand this entire ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a very interesting and relatable question. It hurts borderline, because I think we are just challenged in terms of, we're so used to quantifying the measures and impact that this just springs up when it comes to content marketing. So you talked about reach, you talked about CTRs. One thing with content marketing that we advise when we work with both legacy and emerging brands, or be it short-term, be it long-term, is that when working with content marketing in D2C, don't be D2C, which is don't be desperate for conversion. So I think that is so makes for a hilarious debate, because I think we're so used to the very rapid feedback loop on CTRs, on the reach numbers, the impressions. We are building a narrative through content, right? Like I think Sagar mentioned very nicely that work towards making a compelling brand, and that's not a liberty that a lot of emerging categories definitely have, but it cannot solve for instant gratification as well. Right, it might give you reach, but it doesn't mean that your conversion numbers in the funnel are going to move overnight. And when we run brand health trackers, we often are faced with that question. To your very pointed piece, that what is the correct measure, I think we all are trying to find that answer. There is not singular aspect to it, but it's very important while measuring that what do you want to do. Is it the imagery, is it the positioning that you want to really see a gap bridging in? Is it really the the numbers moving in the bottom funnel that you are trying to move in? Because it takes time. To give you an example, we were working on a recent study on a core theme as sustainability, and we thought, CPG clients are going to be the ones who are running green and feature number one. But we saw tech brands, we saw consumer tech brands like Google, WhatsApp featuring high on sustainability. And like, okay, this doesn't really tie up, but maybe actually it does, because it's the work of conscious years of legacy building in, having different perspectives on content to sustainability, which goes beyond green, right? Having a larger purpose. So that's, and we also saw, like twice the consideration increase for these brands just on the peg of sustainability being a hook. And that was very interesting to see. So there is no particular matrix that I can really pinpoint at, because it depends upon the objective that we have in the, one in the life stage of the brand, the amount of years that category has really matured as. But yes, like really the conversion might not be the only piece where you should look at content. I think it's the quality of content. When you look at awareness, rather look at quality of awareness that you're bringing in. If you're looking at consideration, what is the quality? Because if tried to now started, creating these proxies in the funnel when you're working with content, and even for pop culture important critical social themes like say LGBTQ, we've seen that for that maybe awareness is there, but the quality of awareness is the criticality when it comes to content. So that's, I think, a parallel proxy funnel of the quality of the KPIs becomes extremely critical while working with content as core in marketing.
No, absolutely. I personally believe that, I mean, content marketing is just one of the vehicles. It gets very difficult if to start measuring ROI from a piecemeal point of view, right? And it's a holistic approach of marketing, right? I might have seen some content piece today. I might not drive the sale itself today, but when I am willing to do my research on that product category tomorrow on Google, it will be somewhere in my conscious that I have seen something like Sheetal mentioned while I was watching Chota Bheem. Possibly I saw some visuals of Singapore, and now it's sticking into my mind. It might just drive the sale out there. I had a long list of questions you guys have seen. I've sent on to the group, but we are out of time already. So I think we would wrap it up right now here. I don't want to eat into the time of the next panel. Bhavna, are you there?
Yes, very much. Gurpreet, what an insightful discussion, I must say. Absolutely glued to the screen, and listening to everyone was of immense joy. Thank you once again to all our panelists. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gurpreet, for being a wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Nice meeting all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting all of you.
Okay.
Up next, it's going to be a next very super interesting session, which is coming up. That is, he's the executive president, head marketing, Aditya Birla Group, Ultratech Cement. He's been somebody who over 25 years of work experience in marketing, sales, and business assignments. He's had a rich and deep exposure across various industries, including FMCG, consumer finance, and media. Well, prior to joining Ultratech Cement, he was associated with brands such as Nestle, Colgate-Palmolive, Godrej Surali, General Electric, HT Media, and Godrej Consumer Products. Ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming on stage none other than Ajay Dang, the Executive President, Head Marketing, Aditya Birla Group, Ultratech Cement, and he's going to be sharing a case study on brand secrets to great content marketing. Well, with this, it is now time to invite him on the stage. Ajay, thank you for joining us and giving us your valuable time. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Bhavna. So I think if anybody wants to, I think look at the Ultratech journey in terms of content marketing. We've undertaken that journey less than, let's say, a couple of years ago. And I think we've made a very large dent in terms of how our category is managed and how our brand is managed and how the path to purchase is. It's not another tick mark into a large 360 circle. So I would leave, I think anybody who's keen on, and especially anybody who's building their home, to possibly go across to one of our website or social pages and various other touch points where where I think the team's done a brilliant job in terms of doing content marketing. I thought we'll just focus a little time on distilling some principles and directly come onto that and share a little bit of that journey. I think these things might not sound very, esoteric, yet I think some of the basics being done right is stuff that we pride ourselves both on home building as well as I think marketing and content creation. So we spend I think close to 95% of the time, if you've got to chop a tree, I think we spend 95% of the time sharpening the axe and possibly 5% of the time hacking stuff and getting the big questions right in the category, right? We use digital fairly effectively, but our digital is not for advertising, right? It's to empathize with our customers. It is to reinforce the empathetic expert positioning that we have. And these are three basic questions that I think we've focused on. Who's our customer? What are we selling to that person? And what is he or she buying? Which are strange things to say because the name of the company starts with UltraTech Cement. We are, I think, by far the largest player and the third largest cement marketer in the world. In India, the next two players combined are roughly about 60% of UltraTech's reach and strength in the market. And we've gone strength to strength in this category. If I take the last 4 years, we would possibly have grown at the envy of a lot of FMCG or fast moving consumer goods companies. Our growth rate would be an envy of that. And just going by the previous panel, just sharing it with Amol that we also do not exceed more than 1% of the ATL money, but that's not the key. The key of things is the power of the ideas that we bring onto the table, right? First and foremost, I think we are very passionate people. Marketers are very passionate and typically type A people. And our focus on brands is very, very strong, right? On our products and the categories that we market is very strong. However, consumers are very often not focused on that. And especially when we are looking at content creation and content marketing, it's the consumer's life which matters more. And that's the overlap of the consumer's life and the product category is the intersection where great brands evolve. And it's the conflicts that we resolve, the jobs to be done that we sort out, that creates great brands, not tom-tomming our own stories or celebrity influencers across the board. Yeah, there's one of the doyens of advertising, and he talked very effectively and pithily about that, is that people are bothered about their lives. And it's only when your product or your communication or your conversation intersects with that, it makes it interesting, it makes it valuable, it makes it pertinent from their perspective. Yeah. The one piece, I'm a very big fan of one of the advertising biggies, which is Bill Bernbach. However, his point was that your product, your communication, your marketing cannot add to the proposition. And while that's one thing that I disagree of all things that he talks about, I definitely believe, and some of the work that we've done in UltraTech, it's not just magnifying the proposition, it's become a part of the proposition. It's added value to the consumers if we very clearly and very early realize that we are cement, while in mindshare perspective and Ultratech as a brand, in mindshare perspective, looms very large. Yet when somebody in India makes their own individual home, the cost that out of wallet cost that gets out of the person is less than 15%. Yet the responsibility that we take on in terms of making sure that the home is built strong, durable, and the best quality is much larger than the 15% that we charge. And therefore, creating, and it's an irreversible process, right? Home building and usage of cement is an irreversible process, right? In that sense, we liken it to getting married or getting your heart operated, right? It's that critical. And therefore, the content marketing that we've done adds to making sure that in that irreversible journey, we don't go, or our consumers don't go RE, irrespective of whether they're using cement or not. And thereby we create humongous value and extend our brand even further, right? Great brands solve great conflicts. And whatever, I'd use this word interchangeably, if great brands solve great conflicts, then great content should also sort stuff which is taking a really big bite at the consumer problem, the jobs to be done. And from Ultratech point of view, home for most people, not just financially everybody knows it, but emotionally also in terms of demonstrating their competence, it's one of the biggest project of the home builder's life. And solving a conflict within that, it's the great ask that brand Ultratech does in their consumer building journey. Yeah. So I've listed down, I think it's a short session, so I've listed down very, very pithily a few things from a guideline perspective, which we try and follow 90% of the time. First, I think our give is that we want to broaden the vision that you're looking at from a communication perspective. Your content is not just on the internet. Your content is also the cement bag that you're giving. Your content is the pack size that you're giving, the dosage that you're giving. And it's also beyond the category that you're looking. If the job to be done by the consumer is a large one and you play while a critical portion, the entire job to be done by the consumer is what should be bothering you or is where you want to help the consumer. Content marketing is not just about informing. It's not just about communicating. It's taking on a hairy problem and adding value to the consumer, right? As kids, we've heard this folk tale lots of times that a young boy got a vessel on which food never got over, right? Insight is one such vessel, right? It's a gift that keeps on giving, and irrespective of the money, irrespective of the budget, and insight, not just from a category perspective, the human insight, that is where the category interacts with the lives of your customers. That's huge, and that's the one that is a gift that keeps on giving. And effectively using that in the content creation is far more critical. We don't have a celebrity. We don't have in our content entertaining content. Yet, I think the insightfulness of it is the reason why just in the last 2.5 years, our content has gone to over 400 million plus people. Okay. Right. And it's the empathy that we demonstrate with the consumer and the jobs that they have, which is the key. Second, I think content creation, along with advertising, along with the stances that we champion, is something that gives people the reframing the category opportunity, right? We've reframed the category as usage of cement to demonstrating their competence. It's the biggest project of their life. And that's how the content helps magnify the value of the brand and magnify what you bring onto the table for the consumer. Interestingly, we don't need Facebook and YouTube to target. Digital advertisers promises a lot of it. Our content is such, and it is so sharply focused in terms of its utility. It self-selects people who are in the market, who are in the consideration, who are in the thinking, or who are thinking anything related to home. And therefore, targeting is almost automatic for these 400 plus people. Words matter, right? What you say, how pithily you say it. I think these are all, hugely undervalued assets and skills that we've honed, sharpened our pencil over a long period of time. It's going back to Bill Bernbach. It's not what we say, but what the reader gets out of it. That's crucial. And all the panel talked about is language, the vernacular, where they're using it, using the medium. All those things, therefore, I think become crucial. And more crucial is learning the human insight in that communication skill that is crucial from our perspective. Our content, we believe, if we remove the Ultratech logo, our tone of voice, our effective expertise is so strongly impressioned on the content that we put out that even if people remove the logo of Ultratech off it, a lot of home builders would be able to recognize that this is content which is strongly coming from a leader in the market. Getting things simple is possibly the most complex task. As I think it's given to Mark Twain, he once mentioned that if I had more time, I'd possibly make it shorter. And that holds true for content and content strategy, because you're trying to solve a problem for the consumer. And rather than going on with the huge ego talking about your own self, I think the focus should be the consumer problem that's pertinent. And that clear thinking should be made visible, not only through your communication, not only through your content strategy, but all the outreach that you're doing as a brand. And it's the show that matters, not so much how much you talk with respect to the consumer. We believe our coded formula is how much you multiply the utility that you have for your content, how much you can inspire your consumers, and how well you demonstrate empathy is what gives out the quality of content to your consumer, right? The last piece that I'll possibly address is how do we get in this? There's a lot of talk of cluttered market, and how do you break out from the attention deficit and so much clutter? Our answer to that is fairly simple: is to stand out, do stuff differently, and that's what makes us very, very different in as far as the market is concerned. No, I think we've had a wonderful journey in terms of we've kind of chosen our paths and been slightly different, and content marketing and cement being mentioned in the same breath is something possibly a couple of years back people wouldn't have thought. I think we're doing very well from that perspective, and in one sense redefining the path to purchase within our category. And more importantly, we are helping home builders build homes which are stronger, more durable, with less wastage of money, time, effort, and I think that's the biggest reward that we are getting.
Right. So on that note, Ajay, your presentation said it all, and definitely your experiential sharing, I'm sure, will go miles on everyone who's watching us live today. A lot of experiential sharing right there. Thank you so much, Ajay, on that.
Great. Thanks so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, after that incredible partner AV, it is time to move on to the last session of the day between Naval Ahuja, co-founder, Exchange for Media, and Suparna Mitra, CEO, Watches and Wearable Division, Titan. Well, Suparna is an electrical engineer from the Jadavpur University and an MBA from IIM Kolkata. She has an extensive business experience mainly in lifestyle retail marketing area. She started her career as a management trainee in Hindustan Unilever. Subsequently, she joined Titan, where she has worked on several roles in marketing, both international and domestic. The next stint was Talisman Corp as a director product marketing. She moved on to then becoming the business head lead in Arvind Brands Limited. She rejoined Titan and became the global marketing head Titan, where she was responsible for all the marketing in India and international markets. After this stint, she was the regional business head South for Titan Company Limited, where she was heading all the businesses of Titan Company Limited, including watches, jewelry, and eyewear for the South region. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me and join me in welcoming Naval Ahuja, co-founder, Exchange for Media, and Suparna Mitra, CEO, Watches and Wearables Division, Titan. With this, the stage and screen is all yours. Over to you.
Hello and welcome to this special session with Suparna Mitra. As you know, Suparna is the CEO of Titan Wearables and Watches. Suparna joins us today in this keynote session just before we start the award ceremony. Thank you, Suparna, for joining us.
Thank you, Naval. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And I also want to thank you for spending significant time with us to chair the jury for the Indian Content Marketing Awards. Content marketing is a space that has evolved significantly in the last few years. For those of us with some gray hair will remember television used to have a format called AFP, advertiser funded programs, that started some 30 years back on Doordarshan, and that entire piece has now evolved various shapes and forms on digital. We will touch upon a few areas in content marketing today during this chat, and I want to divide this conversation in three broad buckets. One, look at what's been the impact of COVID on companies that we call non-digital native, how they are competing with digital natives, what has been the impact on marketing of these companies, how brand building is being done now. Suparna, being a leader, can throw some light on what CEO, how the role of CEO has changed in the last 1.5 years. The second we can look at, especially since we have the pleasure of Suparna being here, and she herself has been an ex-marketer all her life, is what is a change, a meaningful change that is that COVID has brought about in the change of in the life of a marketer, of a CMO. We can look at that. And the third part, since today's theme is content, and we are Content Jam, we'll also touch upon how brands have transitioned through the journey of television and print advertising into this new age content. From 30, 60 second television commercial eras, we have now come to 3-second eras, and what are the implications for brands on that. So thank you again for joining us. Let me get off ground straight away, Suparna, and ask you, how have the last 18 months been for Titan? How has the role for a CEO like yours seen change?
Yeah, Naval, thanks for that intro. And like you said, the scene has changed a lot. And from there was a time when, any advertising, any marketing campaign would start with the 30-second or the 60-second television commercial. That would be the start. And then there would be print and hoarding that would support. Then there would be a radio that may support. Then there would be something called activation that you would, think of consumer, oriented, contest or some kind of engagement. And that would then become the BTL, which would be, that's a traditional way in which we used to do this. I think this movement has been already in progress in the last 1.5 years, of completely cemented. Is the starting point is not the 30-second commercial. The starting point is the insight, and then we think of what are the various touch points of the customer with the brand, and how each of those customers provide a consistent expression of the brand or the launch or whatever it is doing, but also equally importantly, completely leverage the possibilities of that particular medium. So for example, I often talk about this. There was a time when there was marketing was just one way, right? The company or the brand would just say, this is who I am, this is what my product is, buy me, buy me. Today, it is two-way. There is, of course, social media, Insta, Facebook, Twitter, all these platforms in which consumers equally contribute and talk about it. There is the whole thing of influencers, which are some kind of customers who behave like brand ambassadors. And then there is the whole piece of information, whereas earlier the information would be something that the company would dispense with, bit by bit, dose by dose. Today, all of the information is right there, out there on the net.
Right.
On day one, and in the 0 hour, everything is out there. And that leads to people browsing, people searching, people trying, and then that leads to user-generated conversation, that leads to ratings and reviews. I, often tell my team, no matter what you're doing on TV, the ratings and reviews are what determine customer purchase. So people are going everything, not just services, it could be products, it could be tech, it could be non-tech. I don't go to any restaurant, I don't go to any hotel, I don't buy anything in any platform unless I see the ratings and the reviews. Right. And I actually go through the ratings. I mean, the ratings need to be minimum 4+, but I also go through the reviews. The people who are unhappy with that product, am I likely to be unhappy on that dimension, or is that something that doesn't matter to me? So why would we imagine that other consumers like us would not behave like us? They do behave like us. And content, since this is about, the whole thing is about content marketing, is that the nucleus around which all of this rotates. And I would even argue that at some level, even the 30-second commercial is actually a form of content. Not the way we had originally imagined it, but if you think of content as anything that the company or the brand puts out there and is a reflection of who they are, and then that the entire ecosystem kind of builds on it, then that's really what content is. So it has been the last 18 months of COVID have been a big accelerator of trends that were already forming. And consumers have it's been the tipping point, and consumers are now completely comfortable with interacting with brands and products in a very hybrid, fluid, and digital kind of way. They seamlessly go into online, back into offline, back into online. Some people purchase the whole purchase journey cycle is online. Some people continue to remain who are end-to-end physical, and that's fine too. Yes. So I think it is really a very big democratization of the marketing process, where marketers no longer control things, and any marketer or any brand that's still trying to control it, we're not going to succeed. You have to let go, but you have to build those conversations, build the content, and then, hopefully that will generate that kind of interest and become a force to reckon with. So that's really how I would put it, Naval.
Yeah, and democratization for consumers, and the brands need to follow that. And given that there's been significant democratization, how does a brand realign their strategy for a consumer reach out? Today, as opposed to say 20 years back, as you mentioned, there used to be limited set of platforms to reach out to consumers. Today, you have dozens or perhaps more. On top of that, the entire consumer journey is being done online in many cases. Then the third part of the mix is the consumer attention is both fragmented as well as very short, right? So it's like the entire matrix has changed and become significantly complex. So given all of that, how do you see brands realigning their strategy to study the consumer better, to reach out to the consumer better? Because advent of digital has made sure there's no place to hide. Mistakes get sort of come under spotlight very quickly. If the chances to do iteration are not as many as they were in the past. So, but fundamentally, what should a brand do to sort of keep pace?
I think, as you mentioned, digital is pretty ruthless in the fact that it is out there and everybody can see it and there's nowhere to hide. But equally, the opportunity in that is that you don't have to go separately looking for insights. The insights are all there. It's there. It's just as the company or the brand is putting out information by every single action of theirs, by every single post or every single reply. Equally, every single consumer is completely unveiled and is totally talking about what matters to her, what doesn't matter to her, what she thinks. And that's invaluable information. Earlier, again, launch cycles of products would mean that first you do, a big research and you go door to door and you collect the data, then you do a quali, then you do a quanti, then you put it together. And the whole cycle would be months.
That's
Today,
right.
entire campaigns are actually, while the product may take months because there are products where there is a certain time that is required to build it, but the actual inciting process to arriving at the creative, arriving at the content, producing it, and putting it out there is a matter of days. It's not a matter of months, not even a matter of weeks. A lot of people, especially companies that are not digital native, that are transitioning from all physical to a hybrid kind of model, they still think of weeks as a good timeline, but really agile companies are doing this really, really fast. So one is the speed. The second is that it allows you to do many versions and very fast. So for example, in the old days, that one 30-second or 60-second commercial would take a whole production setup and the cost and the timeline and the location and the whole jing-bang. Is it happening? Yes, it continues to happen. But we know specifically sometimes when some event happens, and overnight, literally over the night, the next morning brands are posting stuff.
That's right.
Which is relevant, which is interesting, which is bringing them into the radar. So in a way, it has become easier, but in a way it has become harder, because if you're given many chances, some of them will work, some of them will not. And like I said, every single arrow that is released actually has an impact on the brand image. So it's a very interesting place. I think brands and brand teams, marketing teams need to be much more agile, much more ear to the ground. When I'm saying ground, the net, also the ground, and much more willing and flexible, much more creative. I think creativity is also something that,
Right.
there was a time when a brand logo would be only one color. And that's it, and that they would stay with that color for 100 years. But now, we know brands, because it is digital, you can literally have a rainbow of colors over a week or 10 days and celebrate different aspects of the brand. So really, many of the formulae have changed. I do think, and it's important for me to mention here, that the principles remain the same. And the principle number one is be focused on the customer. The how, the when, all that has changed, but be focused on the customer, deliver the customer what she really wants, and deliver it in the language that she can, and on the platform that she anyway consumes. And the rest of it is, the basic principles of what you're trying to do is not that different.
Absolutely. The fundamentals always remain the same. And the important thing is to rely on the fundamentals and not get distracted by all the noise around. I was doing a conversation a couple of weeks back with Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt. And his theory was that, a marketer's job always used to be difficult. It's not that it's become more difficult now. Yes, some complexities have got added, but like you rightly said, it's also easier in some manner. Data collection, getting information, getting feedback. You don't have to go through months of research and on ground feedback gathering. I mean, it's right there. And that brings me to my next question, which is about how companies, especially as I started by saying, are not digital natives, are using information stroke data for their own sort of customer reach out efforts, because data is a huge black box. what you input in it, and the important thing is how you read it, what is the output you're gathering. Tell us, a company like yours, how does Titan reorient itself to become a company that uses data information in a very meaningful manner, in a manner that kind of is very useful for your CMO to kind of do marketing activities on the fly, to tweak product, reach out to tweak positioning, or even give feedback to your product teams to kind of keep tweaking what they're doing. Because this is not built into your DNA, right? You did not grow up. Data and analytics is not hardwired into many companies.
Yeah, having said that, it's been a few years, and I think one of the things about data is that, yeah, there are all these things of data as a new oil, and people just do things just to capture data. It is a bit of data everywhere. Where is the insight? The data by itself is meaningless.
Right.
So the drowning in data syndrome, one has to kind of pull one's head out of that data and not allow oneself to be drowned, and come out and say, how is this data important? How is it useful? What are the insights that are coming from it? So we use data in a multiple ways. We of course have a lot of stored data. We have in Titan company, we have more than 1900 stores, close to 2000 stores. In our division, in watches and wearables division, we have close to 750 stores. So there's a lot of data on what people buy, when they buy, lot of consumer behavior, customer behavior is actually apparent there. The other source of data is that within the store data, we have our loyalty program, Call and Circle, which is a CRM program, customer relationship program. And we have a lot of information as well as insight about the customers. Now, one very interesting thing is that it's not just the data alone. The data has a human face. So the way we, for example, reach out, and I'll take a simple example, something that we do quite a lot is quite, it's quite pervasive in the company, is birthday celebrations for our customers. So how does data help? Data will throw you the birthday celebration. Then there is a process. And also that process has undergone a change due to COVID. So but who reaches out to the customer? There is something on the mobile, but our store staff, the one that knows that customer, what she buys, what class her daughter is in, when her anniversary is, how well, how much she liked the last drug or what she wore and bought. So it's a very personal call. So the data is fed to a human face, a human body, not just a human person. And that person then reaches out and says, Veena ma'am, tomorrow is your birthday. We would like you to come to our store. We have a small celebration. Please bring your family along. And people do. It's not just an impersonal machine generated. There is the machine generated. I'm not saying that there isn't, but then it is wrapped in human touch. And that is the kind of data that really works for us. So we get data from the apps we have, we get data from the customer database, we get data from many, many sources of data. So one is, like I said, wrap it in the human interface. And I think the other is to join the dots, to uncover the important patterns instead of getting lost in that data. So if I'm just giving another example, we realized that for example, both last year as well as this year, post the COVID waves, the recovery was better the growth was better in the smaller towns. Now, that itself is meaningful, but if you start going into what were people buying, when they were buying it, was it for gifting, was it for sale, is the smaller town in a north region behaving exactly the same way in south or east or west? Are there cohorts of consumers? So I think the analysis and the insighting of data is what makes it meaningful. So if you ask, the question that you ended was that we don't have a history of analytics. It's yes and no. We have an analytical mindset. We always have.
That's right.
Yes, the kind of advanced AI ML that is there right now was not there 10 years back, was not even there 5 years back. But as a team, as an organization, if you're more analytical minded and use data for driving your decisions, and it's not just data, you also intersperse, like I said, the human inciting process. And then you can come up with a very robust process and very good results that could come out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, analytics data information has been used in many forms in the past as well. Maybe the backbone was not as much technology and hardware or software. I recall an example. I read, I think 3-4 weeks back, about traveler gifted to the Chinese emperor some 2000 years back a strap of, strap to be tied on the wrist, which had beads to keep track of, the movement of the sun and the days and the movement of the moon. Perhaps the first wearable device ever worn by anybody in the world. Things were happening even before, Apple came by or Amazon happened, right? So the world has been, and right, like you rightly said, it is about insights. It's not about data. It's about using the data in a very meaningful manner. Let me come to what is relevant for today's topic of discussion, which is about content and how it's evolved. Tell us, if you can, about what are the 2-3 legs on which your content marketing strategy stands. What are the few pieces? Because content marketing is now a very vast field. You're doing you're interacting across so many platforms with customers, and I always use this example. TV is linear in so many ways that once you make a 30-second ad, you're pretty much running the same thing across maybe 500 channels with a few tweaks here and there. At most, you'll hire a different superstar for South versus the northern regions. The content marketing pieces that you do on digital require dozens of iterations, dealing with dozens of platforms, multiple ways of consumer reach out. But there has to be some uniformity in what you're doing, right? There has to be some 2-3 pillars around which everything is done. So what would be those 2-3 pillars for Titan?
I think the first one I would say is a lot of our marketing is, I would say, category and product led, and a lot of, I would say, the other big mover of that is consumer insights. So consumer engagement, consumer insights. So a lot of the content that our marketing teams generate are on based on these two legs. So if we can make very good content around how a product works, could be watches, could be wearables, could be jewelry, could be anything. And really, what are the advantages? How does it work? The videos, the tutorials, the deeper in understanding, or even the appreciation, like almost like how a connoisseur would go about appreciating different features of assets of product. And the second part is what excites consumers? What is the current theme? How can I, connect with my consumers on what they are really talking about, what they're thinking about? And it's all of that trail. The biscuit crumbs are all on the internet. Like I said, you don't have to go looking.
That's right.
But it can't be like there is a current trend. It has got nothing to do with my category or brand, and I'm jumping on the bandwagon. That I think people understand. They look through it. So it has to be something that is genuinely connected with the category and the brand, and then kind of organize and develop content around that and really take that forward.
And tell us, how is the role of partners in your ecosystem change? For example, you worked with many advertising agencies. You continue to do very good work with them. But evolution of digital, evolution of all these content marketing pieces required you to work with multiple partners at the same time. So
Yeah.
how has that relationship evolved and changed over the years? Because you can't now just have one agency doing everything for you, because you're looking for specialists. So what's your expectation from agency partners that has changed? How do you see agency partners? Have they evolved and kept pace with what's happening?
So agency partners have to evolve. They have evolved. Of course, we have separate advertising agencies and digital agencies, and we also lean on a lot of other digital content, influencers, many other pieces come together when any campaign is put together. So it really works like that. I think everybody has adapted, no doubt. Everybody is adapted. Everybody is much more agile. I think it goes back to what I said right in the beginning, that each one of us is a consumer. If you are spending all your time in Instagram reels, why would you think the consumer is not there?
That's
Right?
right.
And that's where the ideas come from too. That is where the ideas are come from.
Absolutely. Let me ask you. I'm told we have limited time. Let me ask you, Suparna. Last 18 months have seen significant disruption in our lives for businesses, for consumers as well. And you've seen the journey from heading categories, being a CMO, to becoming a CMO, a CEO, and you were a CEO even before COVID happened. How is the role of a CEO changed in the last 18 months? What are the things that you're doing that pre-COVID would not take your bandwidth and time?
I think people have been under tremendous stress, and it's been such a bizarre time because we've lived through it. We haven't, I mean, of course, we also realize it, but this whole digital working and being at home and the whole real fear for safety and safety protocols, vaccinations, financial support for ecosystem partners. We are a big company. A lot of our ecosystem, franchisees or smaller vendor partners, and how do you make sure that they don't go under and they can kind of weather the storm? So I think it has been really, like a wartime effort, and we are now slowly, gradually moving towards peacetime. But wartime efforts require a very unusual holding together of people so that they don't kind of fall apart or get to that stress.
That's right.
I have spent enormous amount of time both digitally communicating as well as traveling a lot. I've traveled a lot, both after the first wave as well as after the second wave, just meeting people. And we have factories everywhere. People in the factory are coming every day to work. So it means a lot to them that I will show up and kind of stand there and say that, yeah,
Very
I'm
important.
with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last question before tricky one. Social media has come to rule our lives in many ways, and brands also end up bearing the brunt. What advice do you have for young marketers, for CMOs who work very hard to conceptualize a new campaign and suddenly see it being ripped apart on social media the next day, either being the campaign being disliked or being sort of not liked for others, and that allows social media narrative to sort of drive your brand strategy? What does a marketer do in such a case?
I think one has to have a lot of resilience, and it needs a certain coolness. You can't just get totally, taken. It is tough. It can be tough if you're on the firing line. It is. It's something that is hard to predict. So it's a. I would say patience, resilience, and kind of. If it's something that you are totally convinced about, then you should hold on. So there are many things, but it's not easy. I mean, I don't think I have any magic advice to give to anybody. I think each person who has faced social media scrutiny have their own ways of dealing with it. But I do want to leave this thought, which is a very common thing that people talk about, and a lot of it was also talked about for COVID, which are those words, this too shall pass. So don't worry. Today you are at the eye of the storm. The storm will pass.
And the good thing about the social media is a storm is that it passes very quickly, sometimes in a matter of minutes and hours. So you don't have to wait weeks. So thank you so much, Suparna, for giving us your time. Thank you also for chairing the Indian Content Marketing Awards jury. later evening, the winners will be announced. And as you will see, the winners come from a vast set of categories this year. The Content Marketing Awards saw record participation. We had 750 odd entries, telling us how brands have really taken to content marketing like fish to water. With that, thank you, Suparna, for joining us. And back to you.